Podcast with hosts Andrew Clark and Chris Emery. This is designed to be a discussion on all things life and faith. We hope this serves as a weekly resource and encouragement to you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bayview Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew, joined as always by Mr. Chris Emery. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome. Good to have everybody with us today here on the podcast and just hanging out again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Always.
it's good times. We were just talking before we went on air that we're closing in on that 100th episode, which is actually I think the episode following this one. So this is still epic. I mean, 100 feels epic, but to me, there's something like, all right, episode 99.
Yeah. Last of double digits?
Yeah.
I was never good at math, so.
Math is hard.
Think about it hard there for a minute.
So,
but.
yeah. No real
Yeah,
addition there. It's
crazy.
basically counting from 2 to 3, but that's fine.
Yeah, you know it is. It is crazy. It does not feel like we've done this 99 times or 98 times up to this one. So.
No, I think it's because we enjoy it. I think we enjoy the guests we have. We enjoy the topics we cover. I think we just enjoy hanging out, and we enjoy the feedback we get from our listeners. So I think it's all part of it. It's something that's really cool.
Yeah.
So
100%.
always cool to have a guest, and love that we're kind of on a good stretch right now of just having a really good lineup of people coming in and telling their stories. And I love the diversity of stories. I love all the different avenues we find ourselves going down. So today I'm excited to introduce our guest today.
Yeah, we have a really good friend of mine, and just an awesome dude, Trooper Sloan Kowalewsky. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Got enough sleep, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, because you work nights, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Got done at 6 in the morning, got a quick nap in, and now I'm here.
I'm just glad that Andrew was here to do the introduction because I would never be able to say your last name accurately.
Yeah.
So
Looks like Kowalewsky.
Yeah.
Kowalewsky.
Yeah, I tell people to spell it Cow-A-L-W Sky, but when you say it, just don't look at it. Just listen to what I say, and then don't look at my last name
Just
ever.
listen. And then that's the official title, Trooper?
Trooper, yeah.
Trooper, okay.
Yep.
So what's the next step up, like if you continue to progress?
So we have our rank structure in the Michigan State Police: trooper, sergeant, detective sergeant, and you have lieutenants, and you move up the rank that way. Yep.
Okay. What's the top? Who's
Colonel.
We have
a colonel. Yep. He's appointed by the governor, and he gets picked from amongst the state police, and normally the governor picks he or she, whoever she wants to promote.
Okay. Oh, and that's then third base out of Lansing then?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's never my dream. I don't want to move down to Lansing.
You don't want to be down there?
No.
You don't go down and hang out with Governor Whitmer?
No, I love Northern Michigan, I love Northern Michigan.
Awesome. How long have you been a trooper then?
It's coming up on 6 years.
Wow.
At the end of this year, it'll be 6 years.
Dude, that's so
It's
good.
5.5.
Wild. I didn't realize it was 6 years.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I've been around here for a while.
Dude, that's awesome.
That's super cool. Well, do this for us. We'll dive into that because, I mean, I'm sure along with just life questions, Andrew and I probably have a whole lot of police officer questions we're just curious about because
like
we're
ticket
not,
stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big one is just don't speed. That's the average.
So we can't promote 8 You're Great, 9 You're Mine. We can't promote that. Don't answer that.
Don't
I'm
speed. 55 is the speed limit. That's what I have to say.
All right, so tell us a little bit, though. Tell us who you are, family, just kind of the big 30,000-foot overview.
Yeah, so I grew up on the other side of the state, Northern Michigan, near Rogers City. Grew up on a farm. We had 125 acres, still have it. So kind of a farm kid. I don't really show it. I don't wear flannel. And I do listen to country music, though. It's kind of still something I kept on to. But
what kind of farm was it?
We just used a hobby farm, really.
Okay.
We just had beef cows that we raised and kept a couple for ourselves and sold the rest.
Nice.
Okay. It's like a hobby, but it's also like a second job.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a hobby, but we loved it.
Classic.
Taught us a lot of life lessons. Cool. Then from there, graduated high school, went to college up at Lake State. Started for forensic chemistry, and then realized I didn't really want to work in a lab at all. It wasn't for me. Wanted to do something a little bit different. So I switched to criminalistics, which is still science-based, but also, criminal justice-based. Mm-hmm. Got my degree. Had no idea what I wanted to do, really. So I knew my brother lived in Traverse City. He recently moved into the area. So I was like, well, I got to move someplace where I know somebody because I don't want to start doing nothing, by myself. And moved to Traverse is where I met Andrew and his brother Jared and everything. And got a job at Munson as a security officer. Worked there for a few years. Knew I wanted to do something more. So I started applying for the state police. Took me about 2 years to get in, and been doing that ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 2 years to get in. Well, we'll come back to that. You got a wife, baby on the way.
Yes. Wife, baby. We met at Munson at the hospital. She was a nurse. I was a security officer, so not really the same as a cop and a nurse, but close.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, and we have a little baby girl on the way in September, so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And that's everything caught up till now, really.
Yeah.
Girl dad. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Girl dad life.
That's the best.
Dude, it is. It's good days. It really is. So, yeah. Until some punk little loser comes along and said, no, I'm kidding. I've got 2 son-in-laws. If they're listening, I'm kidding. Mitch, Alex, love you guys. You're all good. I'm just totally joking.
Yeah, I'm already nervous about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
walking
life.
him down the aisle. Like, I think Andrew and I have talked about this before. One of my twins got married last summer. Another's getting married this coming August. And I was dreading it. I mean, that part of it, like this is my little girl. I still see her that way. And I was actually holding it together pretty well until we turned the corner and, it was an outdoor wedding and started down the sidewalk and everybody stood. And there's something about the emotion of the moment, the reality of the moment. But the cool thing is my daughter had this idea and she shared it with me. She said, when that happens, we're going to stop and we're going to look at each other and we're just going to take it in for a minute. And that was just a really cool moment. Like we stopped and kind of looked at each other and she's like, you good? I'm like, I'm good. You good? She's like, I'm good. And I don't know, it kind of brought us back into the present moment versus getting caught up in the emotion of it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it was pretty cool, man. Yeah, it's good days.
Yeah.
So, so it sounds like you kind of felt led towards criminal justice of some degree early on. Was that something just from being from high school or just as a kid even?
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of call it it is termed the CSI effect. That's
Okay.
what everybody has. So I watched a lot of CSI, Las Vegas. Me and my mom watch that show all the time.
Nice.
And that's what led me into just getting into law enforcement and liking it. And I played with, Army guys as a kid.
Yeah.
And, loved guns and all that stuff. Played as a kid. So that kind of steered me in that direction. And that's what I went to college for. And then I kind of learned that, I appreciate science. I loved learning about it. But that's not something I wanted to do full time. So that's where I switched the gears. Got kind of the hybrid degree. And then it kind of took me a little bit to solidify wanting to be a police officer. Like I feel like as a kid, I always saw police officers and was like, oh yeah, there's something cool about that. Maybe it was the DARE program, the flames on the car. I thought it was pretty cool. But I was like, I think that's something I want to do. And as I got older, that's just, became a reality for me.
Yeah.
Now, why state police, not maybe local police or sheriff's department? What kind of drew you to that?
So I, kind of joke if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right and do it the best.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. Not to knock any,
I
sheriff's
got you.
departments
Sure,
or
I
local, but
understand.
we all do the same job. We all do a great job. But, I always, when you see a state trooper, you kind of see them. They kind of hold a different presence, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to be. If I could do it, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
And if they tell me no, well, then I learned,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do something else. But they haven't told me no yet. So I'm going to keep trying, keep applying, and keep pushing myself.
Yeah.
Good. So it took you 2 years to get in. Is that normal? Kind of, is it a long process? A lot of applicants?
Yeah, they say normally about 6 months at minimum because
Okay.
of all the steps. Because it's kind of like you get into the academy and then you also get hired as a Michigan employee.
Right.
So that's why it's kind of takes a long time with the interviews and everything. It's not that you just sign up to do the academy. Like day one, you start getting paid. That is your job.
Oh, wow,
Is to
okay.
be down there in Lansing. Yep.
Oh, very cool.
It was always interesting. I think back to that time of I didn't realize it was like the military aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought police officers the cliche like you sign up and they train how to shoot a gun and arrest people and you call it good. Like I remember you talking about like boot camp style like experience for a lot of that academy portion, plus learning and the education piece. Like what was that like?
It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
For sure. We are a paramilitary organization. That's what they say it. So we're not a military, paramilitary adjacent. And it's just great to show structure in some people's lives that haven't had the structure and time management. Because from like 5 a.m, they're waking us up, to revelry. We get up, we go do our workout, we eat, you stay locked on. And all the little things that you don't like, you wonder why they stress in the academy. It's because like you're safe in the academy. Like you're learning everything, but it's a safe space. So if you mess up, you get yelled at, but there's no repercussions. It's like once you get out in the wild, as I say, like there are repercussions. Like you can't mess up. You have to stay locked on. You have to stay professional.
Yeah.
People are going to yell at you. You know, so it doesn't matter how much they yell at you in this building, these 4 walls, you're safe. But when somebody starts yelling at you in the wild, it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
So that's how they set it up, and it really trains you to be prepared for what you're going to see out there.
Yeah.
Wow. So in the academy or even beyond, what were maybe one or two of the things that because I mean, obviously you have your degree, so you're kind of prepared. What were a couple of things you were just unprepared for?
I would say the fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah. They always joke about it, and I worked out with Andrew, I would say months before, getting ready for it, and I felt I was in the best shape of my life going into the academy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't up to their standard.
Yeah.
It's just, and nobody is, and I distinctly remember a time in defensive tactics where we were doing push-ups, and I was just feeling good that day. This is already after working out, and we just went for a run, hung on the pull-up bar, did all this stuff, and we got down to do push-ups, and I'm ready, and we're doing push-ups, and I'm like right in front of the instructor. He laid down right in front of me, and we're going 1 for 1. Every time he's calling out, and he's staring at me, and I'm staring at him, we're going, and everybody else was falling out, and I felt super good that day, and he went until I stopped, and then we got up, and then we had to go run again.
Wow.
So, like, it doesn't matter how good you feel that day.
Yeah.
They haven't worked out all day, so they're going to break you.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get you back up, and you keep going.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. All right, so that's kind of the trooper version. Tell us a little bit about, you grew up in a home where they were Christians, or how'd you find your way through your whole faith journey?
Yeah, so I grew up Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod.
Okay.
That's what we went to. I went to a parochial school.
Okay.
We always joke that my Nana was super involved in the church, would be my mom's mom. And we always called her Moses, and then my mom was Aaron because she was taken up after, and we were always the family, like first in, last out. We were setting up for Sunday school. Mom ran Sunday school. She had her church meetings. Like I spent every Sunday, 6 hours at the church normally is what it felt like.
Wow.
We were always the kids that were in the church, plays, church pageants. I'm pretty sure I played every role. I probably played Mary at some point if they needed it. I was a wise man, a shepherd. I did pretty much everything. So we were very involved as, growing up in church.
Yeah, yeah. And then what, brother? I know you have a brother. Just
older brother, yeah. Older brother and younger sister.
Okay,
yeah.
older brother, younger sister. So, we've talked through this in our own personal journeys of like, we grew up in church, same thing, played every role, been in every pageant, sang all the salty, remember Salty, the singing songbook? Yeah. But at some point the journey, kind of the faith had to become our own. Like was that early on? Was that later on in young adulthood? Where did you really kind of find your path to Jesus?
Yeah, I would say it just gave me such a strong, firm foundation that I never strayed. But we talk about the prodigal son years, and I probably had that in college where I was on my own and it wasn't really a priority. But I still had that faith to fall back on.
Yeah, and
it never went away. And it was really coming to Traverse City, and this is going to be a shameless plug for camp. It was at the first time I got asked to, because I was going to West Side, but he asked me to be a leader at Outcry or Battle Cry, one of the two.
Yeah.
And
one of our summer camps.
One of the summer camps. And just seeing the way that, I was a leader, and I had great knowledge of the Bible and everything, but seeing the way these kids expressed their faith and prayed and did everything, it was like, it was eye-opening. Yeah. And then the worship sets that night were just amazing. Chris Marvin's a fantastic guitar player and singer, and it was just a total perspective switch on like, oh, this is what it's about. It's not just the stories and having the foundations and knowing that, praying, believing in God, all this stuff. It's just that like, this is what it's about, community and basically passing on to the next generation.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. So,
no, it's always fun because, I think your brother was involved, and it's just like cool, like, okay, let's get Sloan involved and all that. But I'm finding more and more when people kind of like they engage at a level of actually caring, like, and not just like, I think this is the difference between like serving and caring. Like, I think you can serve and you do a really good job, but like when there's an actual like ownership to like what you're involved in, I think your eyes are open to more. Because there's a handful of leaders that I've interacted with over the years who have similar stories of like, I have one leader who got saved at one of our student ministry nights. Like, they were like, oh yeah, God's cool, yeah, I'm in. And we didn't do a great job vetting and whatnot. And they, and like literally served for a couple months. And then we did a big, call one night. And then we said, hey, raise your hand. And he's in the back of the room with his hand straight up. And we're just like, that's cool. Like, good for that dude. And afterwards, we're like, hey, if you need to talk to talk to a leader, talk to myself, the other youth pastor. And he came right up. He goes, okay, so what's next? Like, what do I do? And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, I gave my life to Christ tonight. Like, I'm all in. Like, let's go. Like, it was just like a different, and
you've been teaching a Bible study for 3 months.
I was like, yeah, what does small groups look like? Anyways, I'm not saying you got saved at camp, but just I think that experience you saw of like, okay, like I think you said, like, this is deeper. Like, there's more to this,
right?
And I think it is a plug to like wherever you're serving, because you go serve on our worship team, which we can talk about in a minute. But like that idea of you could just show up and do, or you could like show up and actually like apply yourself.
Yeah,
is I think what you kind of realized or maybe experienced.
Yeah, it was like, and even just like, I learned the Lord's Prayer growing up. You learn all the standard prayers, and you go through them, and it's kind of like running through the motions. Like when you sit down to pray before, dinner, to come Lord Jesus, be our guest. Like we just rattle it off.
Yeah.
But then watching, these kids pray, or seeing how like I pray by myself, it wasn't like an open, like I would pray like that in front of the group of kids. So it showed me that like, no, that's what it's about. It's different. It's like being vulnerable, leading the way kind of deal.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, it's crazy because I agree. Like, and I actually, I think, well, I probably had my moments of surrender at camp, but I was actually a camp counselor or a leader when I felt called to ministry. So I was there as a counselor and leading kids. And I remember one night the speaker gave this big push to be like, hey, some of you are called to be pastors and missionaries. You're called into this vocational ministry. And I was already a sophomore in college. I was well into my degree. And, man, I just felt like this huge, like, boom, like, no, you're supposed to be up there. And before I knew it, I'm up there on my face and just kind of accepting that call. So, I mean, that's a little bit of a plug for all you leaders out there. I know you guys are going to go to camp.
Yeah.
And, don't go to camp thinking, I can't wait to see what God does in them.
Yeah.
Be ready.
100%.
Because he might come get you.
Oh, yeah.
Might get you.
He will. So,
yeah.
So you moved to Traverse City then.
Yep.
And so for you, I think maybe to wrap that question up, you feel like that's kind of just the community you got involved in and whatnot's really kind of pushed you into more of like, I'm a believer, well now maybe I'm a follower, more like actually taking it serious?
Yeah, I would say it switched from, something I was raised to do to my own.
Sure.
Basically like making your faith your own. I think
absolutely.
that was the big push, not only because I grew up, but that's it. I have no responsibility outside of you have responsibility for yourself. So it wasn't like my mom called me every Sunday, did you go to church? It's like, no, I need to go. I need to make it a priority. Cool. So I think that's, the best thing was coming over here and making that happen.
Yeah, super good. So we've been talking, like over the last few weeks, we've had different individuals on. We've had, somebody, business owners, realtors, we've had a lot of people. We've been kind of talking down this path of Jesus infiltrating their daily lives, right? And it's been really cool hearing how that comes into different places based on their occupation and the environment they're in. So for you, I mean, I'm assuming you're not the only believer on the state trooper force. In fact, no, I know you're not because I know your old partner. Yeah. So awesome guy. But what's that been like for you? Like, how do you find the challenges and the rewards of just being a follower of Jesus in that environment of being a police officer?
Yeah, it's very. I would say it has its challenges, because you see people at their worst. Every time somebody calls 911, somebody doesn't want you to be there, and somebody does. So you have to show up and deal with people at their worst, and sometimes they've never, maybe they've never called 911 before, they've never dealt with a cop, or they've dealt with them 100 times, and maybe not me, but somebody else has left an impression. So you got to go in knowing that, and just being solid in my faith. It seems like I have these little check-in moments. I go to calls and repeat. Maybe I get complacent, but sometimes I'll just get this weird feeling that I'm going to it, and it reminds me like I'm just gonna pray before I go out there.
Cool.
So I just pray to myself as I'm driving out to whatever, going 130 miles an hour, however fast I'm going to get there, and it's like those little moments that I have for myself to keep me grounded in my faith. And it's as far as the public, being a state agency, I can't just preach on the side,
right.
But I feel like you can do more than that, and I can show Jesus through my actions, and I can be steadfast and courteous and treat them with the respect they deserve in, you know, a horrible moment, whether I'm taking them to jail because they got to go for a timeout, or, you know, I'm there to help them because they're the ones who called.
Yeah. It's such an interesting concept to know that your roles, like you said, is really to deal with people more times than not at their lowest. And how have you seen, like, how does your faith play into that when in that specific interaction? Like, I know there's the first stuff has got to probably be state trooper stuff, but is there that secondary, like, okay, like Jesus loves this person, like, what is that? Is that a balance, a challenge? Like, what's that?
It's definitely a challenge, you know. And that's the human nature, and it takes moments to kind of snap out of it. But it's just, I feel like once everything's kind of solved, and you know, they always joke the first thing that you do when you come on scene is scene secure. While in training, you just run onto the scene, and you need to say the word scene secure. You don't really, it's not really, you don't make it secure because it is. There's a training instructor and, you know, a dummy laying on the ground. And you got your glasses on and everything. But
it's almost like CPR training when you have to yell, call 911 first and then begin.
Yes, that's the first thing you do. But I feel that it's constantly evolving. You know, maybe you go into a house and there's somebody upstairs you didn't know. So you're constantly making the scene secure. But once it is, I feel like it's taking that extra step to just preaching to somebody, you know, whether it's a domestic and you've been out there before and you're talking to this person, like just giving them the time and showing that you care is more important than, because that's all, you know, most people want is they want somebody to show up who cares. They don't want to be judged. They want somebody to come and help them with their problem. So if you do that and you do it with courtesy, their saying is a proud tradition of service through excellence, integrity, and courtesy. And I feel like that carries through our training, and that's how I try to handle every situation with people I encounter.
Yeah. That's good.
So, I mean, I love that. And I mean, I've spent enough time around you just to kind of get a vibe of just kind of the way you carry yourself. It's, you bring yourself in a very calming way. You don't come in, you know, kind of throwing weight around. You come in a way that really does just puts everybody at ease, which I think is just an awesome natural quality. And I'm sure it's, you know, they've trained you to use that. So how have you found your ability to, I guess, more or less, to not just be bothered all the time? Because you see, like, we feel like we see a lot of down situations or people at their worst, or people not being the opposite of smart, you know, just making stupid decisions. And for us, we talk about that in ministry, like, man, it's like, let's not get bothered by people. Let's continue to be burdened. And so how do you find yourself, because you see it at a level we don't even know. How have you found your ability to do that?
It does happen. You get bothered by people, and it wears on you. And, you know, luckily I haven't had anything that has made me turn away from this job or say I can't suit up again and do it again. Sure. And I think my wife is a huge, you know, plays a huge part in that, because she deals with people too, and I deal with people, and we have our vent sessions, but we go back and do it again the next day. And I think it just is that knowing, having that deep-rooted faith, that knowing that, like, yeah, people are messed up and people do wrong things, but there's good in them somewhere, and you can find it, and you can bolster that good, and you can just do the right thing when you're dealing with somebody. Yeah, you know, and it is very hard, you know, because you see the same thing over and over again, or you're going to another call, and in the academy, their biggest stress, you know, they would say lock it on, which was like, you know, when you got up to your floors, you were joking with your friends and they weren't watching, and you could relax a little bit. But as soon as you went down to the main lobby, you had all eyes on you. Lock it on. You're doing the right thing. Yeah. You know, you can't show that weakness, because you need to be the strongest person in the room. You need to be the security in the room. You know, when you go into that room, you own that room. So it's kind of that mentality of, like, you know, not getting burdened in the moment because you need to help this person. And you can go back and you can kind of debrief and vent with your friends and do whatever, but just holding that steadfastness in what you're doing.
That's super cool. How about on the other side of it? How have you found the ability to not take it all home?
Prayer is huge. I think that's just the biggest thing, because that's our avenue, that's our outlet, you know, and talking with friends, and, you know, I've talked to Andrew about stuff, and it's just, I think the biggest thing is taking it to God in prayer, and knowing that, like, He's solved everything in my life so far. He's going to solve the next thing. Yeah. So it's kind of the simple answer, but that's, you know, there's, because it's definitely gets into, like, how you pray and when you pray, and constantly praying and what you're asking for. And I think my biggest takeaway through life is, instead of asking for things, I've turned to asking for wisdom in what happened.
Good.
You know, because once you have that, the thing doesn't matter. You understand why it was there.
Yeah.
You know, breakups, getting rejected from, you know, I applied for NMC Academy, and I didn't pass the fitness test. So I got rejected from that before I did the state police. So that kind of, you know, lit a fire under my butt, per se. And I was like, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
But that was the wisdom, is needing to be a state trooper.
Yeah. Super good. Then kind of on that same line then, because I think we all have to be able to do this, maybe speaking of those, how long, because you've been married how long now?
That's a good question. 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, not newlywed, but still early on.
Yeah.
How are you and your wife finding the ability, or how have you discovered the tips and tricks and to come home and take off your state trooper hat and just put on husband hat and eventually very soon put on dad hat?
Yeah.
And just be that guy.
So it is very hard to take off the state trooper hat.
Yeah.
One, because I think it looks good when I wear it, the real hat. But just it is. I see myself as wanting to fix it, and I want to fix it right now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's my job, is I get called to somebody's house, and I need to fix it right now because I need to get called again to somebody else's house, or somebody's out there doing something they shouldn't be. So it has been very hard to take off the hat and learn that I'm not going to fix it right now. We can just let it sit. You know, we both love each other. We're here. We're both going to pray about it.
Yeah.
And tomorrow we'll figure it out.
Well, and what made me think of that question is you said that on the job you walk in, you got to own the room. And I've met your wife, and she's no pushover, man.
She owns the room.
She owns the room, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my wife owns the room. Yeah. Andrew's wife owns the room, and she owns this actually office building as well. Yeah. So
in our house, I own a little corner. Every other room she owns.
Yeah.
So
That's so true.
Oh, it's so good though. It's so good.
But it is. I think that's the thing, is learning to be humble and taking on the humility. Like, I don't know it all, and you know, maybe I'll in the wild I have to project that I do, because they call me, I have to show up. But when it's a joint effort between me and my wife for life. That's what we signed up for. Yeah. You know, we're a cord of 3 strands. Like, we're working together. So I think it is a big step to, like, not try to fix it right away, humble myself in the moment, be like, I think I know the answer, and she doesn't want an answer right now. And I don't need to give an answer right now. I just need to be here.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't feel like it in the moment, but I got to imagine there's something refreshing about that too. Like, to be able to, like, almost exhale of, like, I don't gotta just solve this.
Yes.
Like, and actually, like, engage in maybe a conversation or two with this individual, and we're fighting for the same thing. Like, I just got to imagine there's some peace in that.
So decision fatigue is a huge problem in our household, because we make decisions not only for ourselves every single day, but everybody we see. Like, my wife's making decisions for medical care, and I'm making decisions whether somebody's going to jail, or what's what's going to happen, or you know, if I'm going to write a ticket. Like, it's nonstop decisions. So to come home and we both battle that together is who's going to make the decision, down to what do we want to eat tonight. The classic decision. And we don't want to make it. We want it to be made for us.
So you just go hungry?
Yeah. There's nights where we just sit and starve and DoorDash shows up, you know.
There you go.
That's just the easiest way to do it. But so we're not too stubborn in that, but it does come down to, like you were saying, is making the decision, having that decision fatigue. We just need to take a step back, breathe, know that we'll both figure it out. It doesn't need to be solved right now. We can solve it together.
Yeah. It's cool you guys get to work on that now, because that gets ramped up with a baby.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just that ability, though, I think, to see it as refreshing, and we to think a little bit for ourselves. That's cool. Do you find yourself, when you are home and there's just like this balance of when you do have to make the call, when stuff does need to be fixed, like, what are you finding that process looks like?
As in, like, just me making the decision, or
like there is something that needs to be decided or worked on between your wife and you. Like, is it easy for you to slip the hat on, or are you guys looking for help? Like, what tends to be the the go-to? Like, how is that decision finally made?
We make a lot of the decisions, I would say, together. You know, a lot of the big decisions. I feel like there are some times where we each take our lead in everything, and you know, it feels good having the the training and the mindset that I have to make certain decisions.
Sure.
But there are a lot of times I fall on to my wife to be like, I need you to look at this and we got to make the decision together, or I just need you to make this decision.
Cool.
So there's just a good give and take. I feel like we don't, because I'm not the type of guy to, like you were saying, throw my weight around. Like I'm going to be steadfast in the room. I'm going to make my opinions known. I'm going to say what needs to be said, but I'm not going to bully you around.
Yeah.
We're going to come to this decision together. When I know I'm right, I'm going to let you know I'm right, but I'm not going to make you feel bad about it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, and I think, in any occupation, and it's certainly not just police officers, but there's always guys that are individuals that come into a situation and they do feel the need to throw their weight around or try and function from a place of intimidation, and get everybody else to submit.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of the time, it's just this, behind that, they're probably functioning from these deep levels of insecurity, and just trying to overcompensate that way. But then there's this word, we did the Beatitudes a couple years ago, and I'm just always captivated by the Beatitude of meekness,
Mm-hmm.
and just being meek, which is not weak, it's not cowardly, it's not giving in, it's just it's strength under control. And I think that just having that spiritual fruit, because that's a fruit, the gift of the Spirit, right? Patience, goodness, kindness, all of them, but then self-control. And so many of us lack self-control, whether it's a place of fear or insecurity or anger, but just to be able to have that and then have that applied into your occupation, your everyday existence, I think it does put you in a spot to almost put people a little off their foundation, a little bit of what they're expecting. Because they're probably expecting maybe the misconceptions of police officers, or maybe some of the, in any of your occupations, there's the worst case scenario that goes on the news.
Yep.
Pastors, you can go find the worst pastor story out there, but to come in and you have that opportunity to show them not just what it's supposed to be like occupationally, but what it's like when Jesus is in that mix.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so have you found people like responding that way? Like, wow, this is not what I saw coming.
I think I would say 90% of my interactions are like that.
Yeah.
Being in northern Michigan, people see law enforcement differently. It's kind of why I wanted to work up here. I wanted to work in this community.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, I think people see state troopers in a different light. So they're always don't want to say impressed, but impressed is a word to be used, but
sure,
of our stature and the way we hold ourselves. But they're always like, man, you guys have just been so cool with me. Like, I hear that all the time. And,
nice.
Even when I'm putting handcuffs on people,
wow.
like, oh, you guys have been so cool. And they're like, yeah, like, I don't need to be mean to you. Like, yeah, you messed up.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
And we're going to deal with this together.
Yeah.
That's, I see it the way God reflects to us. Like, we messed up.
Yeah.
It happens.
That's true. Yeah.
There's, it's the judgment and grace going like in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're being judged. You did something wrong, but there's grace in it. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. The phrase I keep thinking of is there's always room for reconciliation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like essentially the space that you're functioning in that judgment and grace idea of like, this person could be helped.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to not just interact with and view them as the worst, but to actually like essentially care, because I don't know, that I can't get that phrase out of my head, but I feel like that's essentially like what you are doing, which I think is so cool.
Well, and there's oftentimes I think where all of us can go into some situations, whether it's a part of our occupation or not, where someone's doing something that may be wrong or not, something we don't feel is correct. And we can either see them as the enemy, or we can see them as someone needing help. And those are two very different viewpoints. And the enemy just means that I need to win and I need you to lose. But that's probably very rarely a situation. I mean, you would find yourself in that situation more than we would, but even most of your time, it sounds like it's not that you're the enemy, you just need help.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say most. And that's what I try to express to people. And, some people see it and they calm down, and some people just don't want to listen.
Sure.
But I think that's the best way to look at it, is that we are there to help. Every law enforcement officer got into this to help people, whether they wanted to drive fast or carry guns or do whatever they wanted to do. Like, at the end of the day, is you wanted to help people, and helping people, it's funny, pulls you further and further away from that, because you do see people at their worst. but you also see people at their best, and you have a lot of good interactions with people, and people coming up to thank you. You make a difference in somebody's life every day, whether it's small or big, or that's what I have to take it on for myself to find that self-satisfaction, because the world's not going to give it to me, especially in this climate.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to praise a police officer anymore, really.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
I have to find it in myself, and that's what I do. It's just I help somebody every day.
Yeah. Do you ever get to see kind of the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say? I mean, you're there at the beginning of the story essentially, and you set yourself up. You're there to help. You do everything you can, and then it's kind of gone, right? Do you ever get the rest of the story coming back around, that like happy ending story or anything?
I can't think of a time I have. Maybe I'm just a little too early on in my career. You know, it's only been 5 years.
Yeah.
But I hope it comes.
Yeah.
I do want to see something come out of, whether it's a small I have seen an instance of it, because it was kind of funny when I walk into one of our buildings. There was a handwritten note from somebody who got a speeding ticket, and they actually thanked the trooper for writing him a speeding ticket, and they wrote a thank you and an apology, sent it to the post, and they had it pinned at the board, and they said, I'm not going to speed again. So you do see there are changes. I haven't seen one yet, so hopefully I get to see one of my instances, somebody that I did help, or something that I did have involvement in.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do too, because that's where I got to imagine it can like kind of what you're alluding to. It can feel thankless, but not that you don't believe you're making a difference. You just don't ever get the benefit of seeing that. And I mean, that's different than our world. We typically do get to see a lot of that.
Sure.
Now we get to see it look good, and then dumpster fire too. But but I just feel like, one, police officers are getting there's just been this incredible, unfortunate and unfair dialogue and narrative that's been put out there upon all police officers. And like I said earlier, you can take any occupation, you can go find the worst version of that occupation. I don't care what it is. But it seems like the police officer have been receiving that much more than anybody else recently. And so I don't know. I mean, I thank you. I thank you for what you do.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, all your colleagues, and all the police officers in all the different divisions, sheriff, city police, everybody. You are there to make us better. You are there to protect us and help us. And you are part of what provides us the freedom we enjoy, whether we enjoy it or not, and whether you get a speeding ticket or not, or whether the trooper is really, really nice and still gave you a ticket. So disappointment comes part of that. I thought you were so cool. Why'd you give me a ticket?
It's like I lowered it.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Well, it's so good, man. Well, thank you, man. Just good. Just like I said, this is what we love about this podcast. It's just a chance to sit and hear the way that people are living out their Jesus story, and we love hearing it. And maybe we'll have to have you back on in a little while and hear some more of the story. We'll have you on post-baby.
Yeah,
perfect. I do have 3 months off though, so if you want to take me during then, I'll be free.
You'll be ready to get out.
Yeah.
So all right,
I'll be in the triple digit podcast after this.
Dude.
There you go. That's right.
New setup. Yeah, it'll be sweet.
Yeah,
So
it's good. Hey, thank you all for being with us. Hope you enjoyed our time with Sloan. You can go back and listen to all our episodes if you've missed any. And if you haven't done so, hit subscribe or like at the bottom of whatever platform you're listening on. That way you just never miss an episode. They pop right up each and every week, because this is where we're going to be. Hey, next week, don't miss it. We'll be back. Episode 100. A few changes, some surprises. It's going to be a good time. Until then, it's Sloan, Andrew, Chris. We are out of here, and we'll see you next time around.